Hi there, Jamie from the JMT Mind Gym. I hope you are keeping very well. I'd love to talk today for a little bit my thoughts, my feelings about wonder drugs, weight loss drugs such as Ozempic. Now, I feel like I have some thoughts that I'd love to share. Prior to entering the mental performance industry, I spent nearly 2 decades in the fitness industry and still am involved in the fitness industry. I'm the director of the JMT franchise, which is the strength and conditioning facility for physical performance and psychological performance. And so I have an opinion, I have a perspective and point of view, and that's essentially what it is. I'm gonna own my right to share my thoughts if you watch this video. And what's really important is I'm not particularly educated in this area or at all, really. This is merely an observation and a thought. But where I am qualified and entitled to share my thoughts is in what I think underpins and underscores the whole topic of conversation on products like Ozempic and other GLP1 products. And that is essentially, if we find ourselves in indecision or consideration, do we use it or do we not? Do we go to the GP to hopefully get prescribed it? Is it for me? Is it not? We're essentially sitting in what is known as a conflict. We've got an internal conflict. One part of us wants to utilize the wonder drug and the other part doesn't. We've got one side of us that is aware of all the benefits and opportunities and how it's going to lead to whatever it is most important for you in relation to body composition and health, or it's not. We're aware of the side effects, the drawbacks, the setbacks, the consequences, and the costs of long-term usage of such resources. And that's essentially what it is. It's a conflict, it's indecision. And you would have had moments in your life where you were indecisive. Do I stay in the relationship? Do I leave it? Do I buy the 4-wheel drive or do I get a van? Do I wear the chinos today or do I wear the jeans? We are constantly in conflict. It's also known as cognitive dissonance, when we've got two options and we start to get this tension in our head due to the indecision. And sometimes that's worse than actually making a decision. And I personally don't think this is any different. What I would say before I give my absolute thoughts on it is it's one of those things. Inform yourself, get more education on it, and not just looking at what your friends have posted on social media or just an influencer having their say, because it's going to be subjectively biased most of the time. It's going to be an absolute perspective. Very, very rarely will it have a level of objective reasoning, meaning they're going to communicate and talk about both sides. So I think ultimately what underlies what I'm about to say is get yourself educated and informed. If you're not sure where to look, then sometimes going to the science is a really good starting point. Going to such places as Google Scholar, going to such places as Web of Science, Scopus. There's lots of really reputable and dependable places where you can actually find research. And the great thing about AI and things like that now, and the long language models or Claude, is that you can get an actual bit of research and you can punch it into AI and get it to summarize it and simplify, take out all the complexity. Don't necessarily need to look at the methods. What methods did they use? What type of research was it? Was it a case study? Was it an experiment? Was it a longitudinal study? Who gives a fucking rat's ass? I want to know what the summary. I want the synopsis. I want to know in really simple terms. And you can put a nice prompt into the AI, simplify it like you were going to explain this to a 13-year-old. And then you're going to get a nice little understanding of what the actual research says. Then we can start to make more informed decisions. But before then, I want you to think like the saying, like all roads lead to Rome. And what I mean by that is if you're already considering Ozempic or something like that for weight loss, know that there are many different roads. There's not really a right path, there's just the path that you commit to. And that essentially is the solution for indecision and conflict. It's like make a decision. And make a decision. Decision by definition means to make an incision, to cut something away. So then we're making that decision. And ultimately, if you think about the universe, right? You think about the world we live in, it's always looking for symmetry, proportion, and order. And in a really simple way of explaining that is it's looking for balance. There's always support and challenge. There's always profit and loss. There's always gain and loss. There's always abundance and scarcity. There's always balance. And there is a lot of scientific and universal laws to back up what I'm saying. I talk about it a lot because I truly understand this, and it helps with everyday life, and especially in indecision. Do I take the drug or do I not take the drug? Well, it doesn't matter what you do, is what I'm trying to say. It really fucking doesn't. Once you make a decision, there are going to be equal amounts of benefits for making that decision, and there will be equal amounts of setbacks. There will be equal amounts of opportunities and advantages, and there will be equal amounts of consequences and costs. There will be equal amounts of positives, and there will be equal amounts of negatives. Now, the principle of polarity tells us that, a theory that was fostered in 1908. We've got many other ones. We've got the golden mean, which was bolstered by Aristotle over 2,500 years ago, that essentially everything was balancing. We've got Hegel's dialectic. Again, we're talking about equal and opposing opposites, thesis and antithesis. We've got the opponent process theory, and you've even got more simplified theories such as yin and yang, which is ancient Chinese philosophy. If we think about yin and yang, it's two serpents from eyes to the tail, the masculine and the feminine, the thesis, the antithesis, and they're balancing itself out, chaos and order. Everywhere like the whole universe is a living, breathing dichotomy. So the important thing is make a fucking decision. Are you going to take the drugs or not take the drugs? Get yourself informed first so that you are consciously aware of, okay, here's the benefits. Right, I'm going to lose up to 20 kilos or 20% of my body weight. What's the cost? Okay, the cost is, it costs a fucking fortune is what it costs. It costs a fortune to keep that shit up. So there's a setback, there's a drawback, there's a consequence. Okay, what's some of the other benefits? Well, I'm going to lose this weight, so therefore my osteoarthritis and some of the strain on my joints and my structure, that's going to lessen. Heart rate, my high blood pressure is going to come down. Brilliant. Okay, but what's some of the other costs? All right, I'm going to lose some muscle mass. It's also going to lower my sex drive, because there is parts of the Ozempic drug that actually starts to shut down and minimize and dilute some of our desire, some of our intrinsic and innate desires. So the libido takes a bit of a hit. That being said, though, learnt at university a couple of years ago, so does our propensity towards overeating, alcohol, some drugs. So there's benefits and costs, but it doesn't matter what fucking decision you make, everything will balance in the end. So, and if you think about that just on the merit of a conflict, if we've got a conflict and we've got Jamie 1 for fun over here wants to go and have beers on the weekend and turn the stereo up really loud, but Jamie 2 that's true over here is like, well, if you do that, you're going to be hungover, you're going to feel like shit, you're not going to feel great on a Monday. So there's a good old-fashioned little conflict. But at the end of the day, both pathways are going to have equal benefits and equal costs. If you take the Ozempic drug and you decide to do that, that's going to have benefits and it's going to have a cost. If you decide not to take the drug and instead you're going to go to the gym and make the best efforts to try a different nutritional approach or try just another approach in general, you're going to start fasting, intermittent fasting, fucking water fast, juice fast, keto, carnivore, paleo, Atkins, let's fucking have some of it. that's going to come with benefits, and that's going to come with costs, and they will all balance themselves out. The challenge is that when we are making that decision, quite often we will have a lopsided perception. And humans, we only make decisions if we see more payoffs and more benefits than costs. Remember that. But the intelligent fuckers, they sit down pragmatically, methodically, and they write down, okay, what's all the benefits, what's all the costs? Look at it, get informed, and as I mentioned before, get some fucking real science in there. Don't just go off old mate Johnny up the road who's put a post up there saying he's living his best life, or you're looking at Facebook and all your friends are fucking gaunt and skinny and wearing the clothes that they wore 10 years ago because they're jabbing themselves on a regular basis and spending fucking thousands of dollars on the drug. Don't base it off that. That is subjective bias. You're looking for something to reaffirm what you want. Actually take the time, balance up your perception, balance your perspective, balance your emotions. Don't go jumping into anything when you're emotionally charged. That's not going to end well. So that's my overarching thoughts about the wonder drugs. Backed it up with a little bit of science, but here's a really logical, rational, pragmatic tool that you can use today to really inform yourself and to ensure that you're making an educated decision, whether you do or whether you don't. So if you're leaning towards doing, I would highly recommend you grab a piece of paper and you write down 50 to 100 benefits of taking Ozempic. Now, to help you with this task, if you look through the 7 areas of the human experience, so if we look through how does it benefit you physically, how would it benefit you psychologically, how would it benefit you vocationally through your career, how would it benefit your spiritual life or your self, your development of self or professional development. If you don't have a spiritual practice, how does it benefit your family? How does it benefit you financially? And how does it benefit you socially within the community, organizations, and groups? So here's 7 different lenses you can look through to find those benefits. If you found 10 benefits in each area, you're going to start to see, okay, this is how this thing benefits me. But then I want you to do the same for the consequences and the costs. 50 to 100 consequences and costs for taking the wonder drug. Make sure you are informed first. Go and have a look at the science. What does it tell us? So that you know about the weakening of your skeletal muscles, the loss of muscle mass, the loss of sex drive. Like, think about all these things before you do this task. Get educated, get informed, use the science. This is brilliant. And if you want the fucking platinum experience, the business class of this methodical task, and you really want to knock this fucker right out of the park and understand exactly what you're dealing with, then you do the same for perhaps not taking the drug. If you're in indecision and you're like, take it or not take it, do the task for both options. If I go not take it, all right, I'm not sticking a fucking needle in myself. I'm not paying a mozza for all these drugs. What's the benefits of not doing it? i.e., what's the benefits of living a paleo lifestyle or getting a nutritionalist or a personal trainer? You know, there's 50 to 100 of those, and there's 50 to 100 of those of the consequences and the costs. To me, I'm neither here nor there. I am neutral. You know, to thine own self be true. Know thyself, love thyself, be thyself. If it's for you, brilliant. Merry Christmas. If it's not for you, happy fucking days. Happy Easter. But make sure that you are informed and you do the task. We're winning. That is my overarching thoughts and insights for the wonder drugs.